Alright, well, you're brewing with Josh here. I completely forgot to start recording at the beginning. You basically take about 1.5 gallons, 2 gallons of water, bring it up to roughly 150, and then you steep your grains for about 30 minutes. This little tool right here is very important. I use it quite frequently during the brewing process. Another important thing to keep in mind is you need to have plenty of cleaning supplies. My favorite to use is this right here. Oh, if I can get it out. Star Sand. I've been using this for years and years and years. This has been used for over 100 batches, and this bottle still has enough for probably another 20 or 30 batches. Oh. Sorry about that. I completely forgot to pay attention to this. After you steep your grains, fill up the pot, good finger's depth, with water. After you steep your grains, and then bring that to a boil before adding your sugars. Now, I'm using a liquid malt extract, also known as LME, for good grain type flavor. I am also going to add about 2.5 pounds of honey. I do the honey because I'm making a oatmeal stout. It's got a very strong, full body flavor. The honey kind of takes the edge off of it, makes it a little bit more palatable for other people. And yeah, now that I got everything to a boil, I'll be right back after I add this entire bag. And then I'm going to add half of a 5-pound jar of simple honey. I got this from Walmart. It was like $10. Alright, now I'm back. Part of the reason why you want to leave roughly full finger's length is after adding all of your liquid or dry. They do sell dry extracts here in Utah. It's going to take up a lot of room. Now, before you start putting this back onto the heat, you need to stir and stir and stir until it feels good and smooth, I guess would be a good way to describe it. Basically, as I'm stirring it right now, I just added all the sugars in there. It has resistance, and you can feel the difference when you're done stirring, when all the sugars and everything are completely dissolved. Now this little concoction, after you do the grains and then add your sugars, this is wort. Congratulations, you are now halfway there. Give it good stirs. I usually stir mine for about 5 minutes or so. So I'll be right back with more. Alright, now that I've got this stirred up good, I got this good long spatula here. I just want to kind of take that flat edge here and scrape around the bottom. Make sure that I don't have anything sticking to the base of the pan. Now this is your standard 5-gallon pot. And you can buy them online at Amazon or at your local brew store. There's so many different places to get it. Now, as you can clearly see, this is all of the honey that I used. With the 6 pounds of the liquid malt extract and what I added with the honey, I'll show you right here. This is what I got from my local brew supply store. Now, with the 6 pounds of liquid malt extract here, I'm going to get roughly 5.9%. Now adding about 2.5 pounds of honey, it's going to take that from 5.9, probably around 7.6, maybe a little over 8. We'll find out after we do our final measurements here. Also, I am going to be using a Safe Ale S04 dry ale yeast for this concoction that I am currently doing. And here are the instructions. You can pause the video for that. And right here, the brew supply store that I normally buy my equipment from, well, actually I bought everything from them, gives you basic ingredients, shows you the grains and stuff that you actually have in there. Oatmeal stout, showing you what your original gravity is going to start out at, your final gravity, your IBUs, alcohol content, and roughly 5 gallons. Now I'm going to let this sit. Since I use a 2-stage fermentation, I'm going to let it sit for about 2 weeks in the first tank, and then in the second tank I'm going to let it sit for about another 2 weeks. But here's the kicker. I personally will do in the first stage fermentation, I'll do it in my basement where it's got slightly colder temperatures, and it allows the yeast to act more slowly, which gives it a bit of more of a mellow flavor to it and allows those flavors to kind of mellow out and go together. And then when I put it in my second fermenter, I usually bring it upstairs where it's warmer to allow the yeast to come back alive, basically, and finish up the job. And then I will bottle and everything. I'll do a follow-up video on what I do with that. Yep, I'll be right back. Alright, I'm back. I know it's kind of loud. I got the fans going. It does tend to stink in your house. I got the pan back onto the heat. Now, if you've got a gas stove or an electric stove like I have, the temperatures and everything are definitely going to vary, but this is one thing I cannot stress enough. Don't turn your heat all the way up. You will burn your sugars. It'll give you a horrible flavor. Bring it up to temperature slowly. I can't stress that enough. I know you're in a hurry. This might be your first time ever brewing, and you're excited to get the party started. It's fun learning experience, but trust me, that is also where this little gadget right here is going to come in very handy. Roughly, I think about 200 degrees is where it'll start boiling. You want to make sure you leave plenty of room at the very top. Now, me personally, I don't like a full, large, rolling boil because you can tend to get spillovers. It'll just come gushing over the sides and pans. It's a crazy mess. If you have a little outside burner, you could do it out with a propane tank, could do it out in your grass or garage or something. It'd be a lot easier to clean up, but this is what I got. So I'm just gonna slowly bring that up to temperature, keeping a very close eye on it. I'm also got this from my local brew supply store. Foam Control Firm Cap S. Basically the guy told me this will help with boil over and everything. It's made by Brewmaster. Oh, Brewmaster. There you go. Give you a little bit closer idea of where to get it. You can see all the numbers. Oh, all the numbers and everything. Spent me $6. This is definitely going to be my first time using it. So we'll see. It's supposed to help with blowout and boil over when you're doing this part right here. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to add one full dropper of it. Add that in there. That looks gross. Put that in. And grab my stick here. Give her a good little swirl. Yes, I am not a professional YouTuber at all. I just wanted to get something out there for people starting out, because when I first started out, there was hundreds and hundreds of videos, most of them out of date, and a lot of people just ramble and stuff. But I'm just here to give you the basics. So now that I've got this back on the stove, I'm going to give it a minute, let it come up to temperature. This can take anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes. The best thing when you're making your own beer, don't be in a rush. If you're gonna make it, you gotta dedicate a whole morning, spend a good 3 hours or so making your beer. And nothing like making your new beer without having a glass of the old one. Be back in a minute. And I can't stress this enough, while you're bringing it up to temperature, make sure you are stirring constantly. And feel as you scrape the bottom here, if you feel any resistance, turn the temperature down a little bit. You want a nice smooth feel across the bottom, because if it's going to scorch, you're going to feel it at the bottom first. It'll feel like there's something there stuck to the bottom of your pan. Simple, easy, be back. Alright, wanted to just give a quick overview of what I've got to use here. Over here I've got a good siphon tube, roughly about 3 feet long. I then also have another siphon tube, which is maybe 1.5 feet, 2 feet, to do test readings and stuff as I'm doing the brewing process. This right here, these are auto siphons, super cheap, like $4, easy to use. This, however, my carboy, is probably the most expensive thing out of all of this stuff. That was roughly $45, I think, or $45-50, something like that. You gotta get yourself a good angled scrubber. Most brew supply stores sell these things. Super cheap, easy to use. You'd need one that's got the angle. I like it because it cleans up around this area really well. Excellent stuff. I'd use a very simple airlock. It's just got that little thing in there that kind of slides around, lets the air extract and everything. But I also like this as well. I don't know if I can get the lid off. I also like this because it's got that little tube right there. And when I'm using beers that tend to have a higher gravity, I can take one of my siphon tubes and actually slide it right over that little piece inside there so that I don't get blowout. New brewers and everything will, so, oh, what's a blowout? Well, basically when you add extra sugar like I do, give it just a slightly higher alcohol content, the foam will build up, because I've got my tank marked right there. That's my 5-gallon mark. So this is a 6-gallon carboy. I got to leave a bit of headspace, but after it's sitting there fermenting, this entire area is going to fill up with foam because the yeast is super active in producing carbon dioxide, and sometimes it will blow out the top. If you don't have something set up to prepare for that kind of event, it can be a very sticky mess. It'll get all over the walls, like this little bung plug. Yes, it's called a bung plug. Will blow off the top, and it'll spray foam everywhere. It's a horrible mess. It's happened to me several times. And this right here is a simple, oops, don't want to drop it, hydrometer. Yes, I'm not a professional YouTuber, don't laugh. It just, if I can get it to focus. Oh, come on. It's got all the numbers on here. Shows your gravity. This is where that gravity comes into play on the chart. You can also take, so let's say it starts at, or finishes at 1.2. But when I started it was at 1.07. You can easily calculate your alcohol content by just simply rotating it. So they got 1.72, let's say, just shy of 9%. You subtract the final gravity up here, what it should be. Compare that to everything, just simple math. Tells you exactly what your alcohol percentage is. I really like this one. There goes my thing. Oh, come on. See, super easy, simple to reuse. It's great. This right here is the Glory Juice. Before everything's done boiling, I'm going to completely sanitize everything that I've got here. I got me a good, I think that's like a 7-gallon bucket right there. I use that, fill it up with water, add my Star Sand to it after I rinse out the carboy. And I'll rinse and wash all of this stuff. I cannot stress enough how important it is to sanitize everything that you've got. Everything. Even if it's just a spoon that touches something, once this little guy right here is finished boiling, you're done, you start to cool it. After that's cooled, everything that touches it has to be sterile. If it's not sterile, you're going to get fungus and all kinds of stuff. Bad yeast. It's going to ruin the entire batch. So, these are my little yeast pellets. Got yeast, sorry. Hops. $2. Super cheap. This is how I get it. This is how my beer supply people sell it. They've got hundreds of different types, styles, flavors, everything. With the oatmeal stout here, the nugget hot pellets. This is just a standard type. It's not anything special. Good stuff. I think total setup with everything that I've got right here, maybe $100, 120. Cheap.